Welcome to Retail Intelligence in Action, a limited video podcast series from Ometria and OFFBounds, where we go beyond the buzzwords to explore how AI is actually transforming enterprise retail marketing. I'm your host, Ron Thurston, and in every episode, I'm joined by one of Ometria's founders to challenge assumptions, decode the hype, and spotlight the real decisions brands are making in the age of intelligent automation. But today's episode's a little different, because I'm joined by both co-founders of Ometria, Djalal Lougouev and Ivan Mazour, for a deep dive into the strategic crossroads facing retail CMOs right now. We will unpack what it really takes to implement AI inside legacy systems, what the shift from channel-based to customer-based marketing looks like in practice, and why data architecture, not just creative strategy, may be the most significant competitive advantage of the next decade. From marketing operations to product innovation to organizational readiness, this is the behind-the-scenes view from two founders who've spent over a decade helping retail brands adapt, evolve, and lead through change. So let's jump in. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you both here to really talk about retail intelligence in action. So Ivan, I want to turn to you. Give us the 60-second pitch on Ometria, what it is, why you both started it.
It's great to be here. Retail intelligence is what we do. So this is exciting. Ometria is the customer data experience platform for retailers and retail brands. We have been doing that for 12 years. We are a unified platform that combines all the customer data and puts it in the hands of marketers that are trying to create amazing customer experiences. I think we all know how hard it is to create a memorable, unique customer experience today. Well, we've been on the journey to help 200 enterprise retail brands, many other ones you would have heard of, Sephora, Foot Locker, help them create experiences for over 1 billion individual people across the planet.
Wow. And what was the space that you saw open to build Ometria?
There's been so much change from a technology point of view over the last maybe 20 years. Think back, first e-commerce transaction, mid-90s. That was only 25, 30 years ago, realistically. That's not a long time, a huge amount of change. And we were right at the thick of all of that transformation. What we saw was retail was shifting to e-commerce, to online, to digital. And yet at the same time, the roles that marketers played, the jobs that they had to do, were becoming so much more difficult. So not only was there a great shift towards the amazing opportunity to be able to buy things online, get access to products you couldn't get before, there was also the downside, if you can call it that, of people having to relearn their job from day one. And actually we thought, wow, what an amazing opportunity. If we could apply technology, if we could apply maths, if we could apply AI to helping those retail marketers, if we could get them to the level where they're not trying to keep up now with the expectations of the customer, but kind of jump way ahead of those expectations, that seemed like something that would have value and be fun to do. And so that's what we did.
Amazing. And the perception, I think, from the customer point of view is that brands are not far enough ahead. And so if you think kind of where we are today, if you think about the kind of ecosystem from 30,000 feet, where does AI and kind of where do you sit and play in that space?
I'd like to think that we've helped the retail brands, the marketers, those teams really catch up, but I agree with you. I agree with you completely. The reality is the expectation of the customer is still way ahead of what happens in the vast majority of retailers and retail brands today. Yeah. That's definitely the case. We're not at a point yet where the customer feels like, oh my God, not only have all of my needs been met, but all my wants and deepest desires have been met as well. That's just that's not the reality. But I think the gulf between the expectations and the capabilities of retail marketers, it's really started to shrink over the last decade or so. The customer data became usable, and the platforms like Ometria, a CDXP built for retailers, started to get into the hands of these retail marketers. So I think each year that passes, we get closer and closer to being able to deliver on the expectations of the customers, to deliver those experiences that, when each of us as a consumer experiences them, we're like, hey, that was pretty cool. Like actually, I do want to come back and shop with that brand again. And I want to do it not because I just like their product, but actually it makes me feel really good to be part of their world.
Yeah. And in every channel. It does feel sometimes like they know me in store, but they don't know me online. where they know me online or they know me on social media, but they don't know who I am in store.
Yeah.
I think that's been the challenge from, I think, every retailer. Is
Yeah.
how do we have this full picture view of the customer and a full understanding of who they are, where they're shopping, what they're doing,
Yeah.
and how to serve them.
Yeah, and consider from the point of view that actually different people, certainly different generations, different demographics, but actually just different people individually
Yeah.
will have completely different preferences across all of that. So it's not just the case that you kind of need a unified view of, what's happening when people buy in store, what's happening when they buy online, and how they interact with you, and they open an email, click on an advert, and so on. But actually, you sort of start to realize, well, hold on a second. Jalal loves Instagram, so you got to hit him with Instagram. And maybe Ivan only does post because he's old now, and that's how you got to roll. The fact is, each one of us has a completely different set of preferences, and as a retail brand, you have to be ready to fit within the preferences of the customer.
Yeah.
You can't expect them to fit within the preferences of you, the marketer. You have to absolutely understand exactly what it's going to take for them to feel good.
Yeah.
And that's the job, really. The job is to make them have this kind of warm, fuzzy feeling.
Right.
That's what it takes to differentiate. Product is amazing, and brand values and what a brand stands for is extremely important. But the fact is, the customer experience, that's what people remember.
Right.
That's what makes them feel special. And that's why they ultimately come back again and again.
Right. And part of that is human, and part of that is technology, doing both. So if you thought about 5 years from now, because we're moving at a very rapid pace, I don't know that you could predict more than maybe it's 3. Where do you see the world sitting in this conversation?
5 years is an interesting timeline because I don't know how much does or doesn't change. We are in the middle of by far the fastest technological transformation we've ever had. I mean, the world's gone through so many technological transformations, industrial revolution, so on. There's been the internet, mobile phone, but none have happened at the pace that we're experiencing this. 3 years ago, ChatGPT came out. 3 years is not a long time. And yet the reality is so many people now actually have forgotten how to do the majority of things. I bet you the vast majority of people, when it comes to doing something simple like writing a happy birthday note to someone, their first instinct now is to go to ChatGPT. Like, I actually force myself not to do that because I don't want to forget the skill of being able to write a happy birthday note.
Write and spell.
And spell and just creatively come up with something that's authentic and that means 3 years is what it's taken. So, 5 years is a big horizon. So all sorts of things can happen. At the same time, actual AI adoption in practice, in business, actual changes to workflows and how they're being completed, not that much. I mean, you talk to a lot of retail businesses right now, or businesses in general, and you're like, hey, where are you deploying AI? There's some that are at the cutting edge and they're doing lots. Most will be doing some, but no one's out there going, you know what, we've changed our whole entire business. And we've got no humans left and the whole thing runs with AI.
Right.
So I think it is an incredibly hard question to decide where are we going to be in 5 years' time. There will be a huge amount of progress. And at the same time, I think there will be a wide axis of adoption from some retail brands being in 5 years exactly where they are today and probably then suffering because of that, to others that are being right on the very, very cutting edge in a way that we can't even imagine. That it's impossible to imagine because 5 years is such a long time.
Yeah. Djalal, do you agree with that statement?
I think I agree with the fact that a lot of enterprise and larger brands will find it very difficult to adapt and apply these AI technologies. I 100% agree with Ivan that even my parents that are from a different generation and come to me for help because I'm in IT and everything from a broken printer to the TV, they used to come to me. And now the use cases that they're deploying themselves, I didn't even realize ChatGPT could do that. Like, they take out the phone, they look at the coffee machine, it tells them exactly what to do, what buttons to press. So I think from like a social and human perspective, I think over the next 5 years is going to be crazy change. But in an enterprise level, I do agree it's going to be slower than most people expect.
Yeah.
And I think we're also now seeing a lot of pullback in terms of investment. And I think one of the biggest kind of cases was Klarna when they deployed a lot of customer support and agents using AI, and now they're bringing back humans. So I think that's only going to create a bigger gap between what the customers are expecting and what some of the retail brands are delivering. But at the same time, I think it will create gigantic opportunities for brands to embrace that technological shift and really deliver experiences that are truly unique and special. and create a differentiation for them.
Yeah. How does, when you think about tech stacks, like that enterprise level, that function of all of the different tech stacks that they use, how has that maybe supported or inhibited their ability to move at this pace?
I think there's a report by Gartner that suggests enterprise brands have 120 different MarTech solutions and only 30% are utilized. And what that leads to, ultimately, if we look at the tech stack, we've been in this for 12 years. So I think over the last 5 years or so, or even the last decade, there's been a huge shift in trying to get point solutions that are best in breed. And if you're a brand and you need to fill the gap, right? Let's say you want to do product recommendations. I'm using a very basic example. You want to do product recommendations. You go get a product recommendation vendor. Then you've been doing email for the last decade. And over the last 5 years, SMS is now taking over. So you go get an SMS vendor. Then you want to do some BI. Then you want to do some intelligence. Then you want to do ID resolution. So you've added all these technologies on top. But ultimately, it's never been as true it is today, that in order to be able to generate those experiences and really leverage AI, you need to have the data connected. So you've built this Frankenstein enterprise solution, but the reality is you're unable to leverage it because it's not connected.
Yeah.
We've been talking about data silos for such a long time,
Yeah.
but without really realizing it, we've created even deeper silos than ever before,
Yeah.
not through kind of traditional databases, but through vendors.
Yeah.
So we went through this crazy acquisition spree of technologies and vendors, which ultimately, specifically for enterprise, because if you're a younger brand and you're starting off, you probably are going to use a more of a flexible, modular, connected stack to versus an enterprise that's added all these things on top.
Could be for a decade or two.
It's the complexity of those systems talking to each other. It's complicated.
Yeah.
And to unravel all that and to decide to remove some of them and add others, it's a complicated process. And that's why I think I agree with Ivan that for those brands, you have to make some pretty significant and tough decisions or you're not going to accelerate or kind of match and deliver the experience that some of the other more agile brands are delivering today.
And you could understand how they got there, right? You could understand how in each individual decision, kind of at the point that decision was made, they were like, yeah, you know what, we need this thing. It's going to take us 3 years to undo this. So why don't we just spend 6 months to add the extra things? So like you can understand the calculus of each individual decision. But I think any rational, logical human being will look at the idea of having 120 MarTech vendors. We can forget that. Let's say five MarTech vendors. And look at it in the world of where we are today, where customer data is the absolute foundation, where AI is now starting to take over. And it is just in every way, practically, objectively, logically obvious that that is a bad idea.
Yeah.
That you need the data to be unified because otherwise you have a misunderstanding of your customers. A misunderstanding always leads to a bad experience, which means they don't come back. You have not only just a misunification of data, but you have an inability to deploy AI because the data is not all in one place. So how can any of those 5 separate AI tools possibly get anything right? Without the right context, you can't have the right outcome, right? Same for humans, same for machines. So at the same time, it was all a good idea when it happened, but the end result is a really, really bad outcome for the vast majority of retail brands that have found themselves with these gigantic, messy tech stacks.
But if you think back a decade, no one really understood that what AI was going to do or where we sit today at the end of 2025. So is there some of it is very kind of well-intentioned decision, I think, to buy all this MarTech. But how do they begin this process, I guess, Djalal? And what is the CMO's role today in some of that? Because their job's changing.
The role of the CMO is definitely changing. And I think what we're seeing, at least in the space, is either CMOs that go back to those fundamental brand values and experiences and focus on that, or CMOs that could ultimately not become more technical, but leverage the technologies and the data in a way to deliver that experience. So you can have those two archetypes that are starting to form. But specifically to where to begin, I think you need to flip the script and start with an AI first foundation. And what I mean by that, everything that you set up needs to be interconnected and focused on the data.
Okay.
And I think when Ivan and I were starting Ometria, we started with the experience first, because ultimately we wanted to create incredible customer experiences for the brands that we work with. But we quickly realized in order to do so, you need to start with the data. You can't start with becoming an email service provider, because back then email service providers started off as sending emails to email addresses.
Right.
You can create an experience.
Right.
What we started to do is, okay, here's a customer and they like to go to the store, and then they engage more in SMS, for example. So that was kind of the thinking. And I think brands need to apply the same thinking by starting with the data first. I honestly, if I was a CMO today, I would probably cut 50% of the vendors that I have and ultimately just look at data quality, try to see what are the key components that are absolutely necessary. Focus on the data foundation, basically. Long story short, just start with a data foundation. And I think the biggest risk today, and we, I think, as vendors are ultimately responsible for that, there's a lot of cool, shiny stuff out there.
Yeah.
Like, especially after ChatGPT, probably over the last 12 to 18 months, the amount of stuff that has been released that has an AI tag on it is insane.
Right.
I think in 2010, if you look at the MarTech landscape, you know, that crazy illustration with all the logos on it. I think back then it was like 150 vendors. Now it's 11,000 vendors.
Wow.
Or 10,000 and more. But that's just in terms of vendors. But then if you look at the crazy AI functionality that's been released, because that's what people want, and that's what a lot of kind of top-down investments are coming to, is that people are saying, go out there and buy some AI.
Right.
But then going to the point that I think we're both making is that you might go buy a chatbot that sits within your BI vendor, or you might go get a predictive model from your email service provider, and then you might gonna go get another AI agent somewhere else. But once again, they won't be speaking to each other. So unless you have that foundation that's gonna connect your email, your SMS, your product catalog, and your orders, your in-store information, no matter how much AI you're gonna throw on top, nothing's gonna basically drive those experiences that you want. So once again, long story short, start with the data foundation if you want to apply and generate true kind of results through AI.
Yeah, and there's an easy example of this, right? Like, imagine if ChatGPT was trained on half of the internet. And like, if you go back to GPT-2, which is the first one that you could reasonably use, basically, you had to use it through an API, but you could still like use it, like any kind of early adopters were able to. That was trained on a tiny subset of what GPT-5 is trained on today. GPT-5 is basically maxed out all data everywhere, every book, every piece of internet, like every language. So right now, if you ask it a question, it might hallucinate, but assuming it's not hallucinating, it will give you a very, very robust answer because it just knows everything that humanity knows. GPT-2 knew like a tiny amount. So chances are it's going to give you completely the wrong answer because it just didn't have access to the data that it needed to know what it needed. Same exact thing applies here. You create an experience, if you create it via AI, based on understanding over a subset of that data, it is almost certainly going to be the case that experience will be wrong. It has to be. It's logical. So yeah, now is the time to take a step back and to allocate however long, a couple of months, even a year, to lay the data foundation. Because right now you can afford to take that year. If you're a large enterprise retail brand, couple of billion turnover, you can afford to take a year. Your business will not get into financial difficulties. Your business will not fall behind if you take 1 year to lay the foundation. But if you don't lay the foundation, you don't set yourself up to benefit from the new generation of agentic AI.
Right.
In which case, every year you'll start falling behind, and then it'll be too late to go back and do the foundation. So like, there's an opportunity waiting for retail brands right now, and the ones that will take it, they will have a 10-year path afterwards, maybe longer, of really leading the pack and differentiating.
That's such good advice. Really good advice. Would there be a cost savings in there when everyone's kind of thinking about cost and doing more with less? Is there this idea of we can actually save money by stripping this back and doing what you're describing, Ivan?
I think almost certainly, if you're talking about 120 vendors, there is going to be a bunch of money that's not, it's not being deployed in a valuable way. But even if you've just got 3 or 4 vendors right now, there are so many inefficiencies. So it's not just about, and you're totally right, Ron, to point that out, right? Because it's not just about the upside. We got to be practical. We got to be real. The economy is uncertain. It's probably going to continue to be uncertain for a while. which means it's not just about performance upside, driving better results through better customer experience. It's also about making sure the costs are under control.
Yeah.
And absolutely, if you're going down from 3-4 vendors to one key vendor that is powering a unified data and all of the experiences that sit over the top, there is undoubtedly a cost saving involved from a pure technology cost point of view.
Yeah.
But also from an efficiency and a waste of human hours, and each of those human hours carries a monetary cost attached to it.
Yeah.
Savings across both of those, definitely.
And Djalal, as you're working with brands, and so your like primary business partner is often the CMO, but it requires then the decisions that you're both describing around untangling yourself, stripping back the data, going back to basics, like rebuilding for the future of AI. Who are the other business partners that it requires for this to happen? Because just in my own experience in interviewing executives, nothing happens in a silo on this big decision, because then the board is saying you need to buy more AI. The senior leadership team may have certain decisions they need to be made. And I don't know that every executive is aligned on what you're describing. So how do you do that? Where do you start?
Yeah, it's a great question and a difficult one. I don't think there's a one size fits all, because I think different organizations are in different kind of maturities when it comes to data and tech. But one thing, confidently say that it does require multiple stakeholders throughout the organization. Whether it's a small organization or an enterprise, I think you need to have it from pretty much most of the C-suite, if not all. I think it needs to come from the CEO. I think the CMO needs to be definitely kind of spearheading, if not partnering with the CTO, the CIO. Now with a lot of the data kind of privacy and security and governance, I think that's a huge consideration that needs to be taken into account. But I think it's kind of starting, even though it's a huge leap of faith and a pretty substantial investment in a project to initiate, it's best to start with small steps to identify why are we actually doing this. What is kind of the end goal, or what are the tangible metrics, how we're going to measure any of this stuff. Because the risk is always to spend a year or two completely kind of nerding out and building out the best kind of tech stack and the database and the data foundation. But then if you don't have the objectives and the outcomes well defined from the get-go, I think it could get out of hand pretty quickly. So I think, to answer your question, I think definitely a combination of multiple C-suite leaders, starting with the CEO, and then definitely marketing and tech working together and defining the goals, the objectives, and then really it's to place pretty difficult bets at this stage, because you're ultimately betting on your business.
Right.
But I think the cost of inaction today is significantly more dangerous than making that risky decision. Because as we've just discussed, within 5 years, I mean, the customer experience is going to look radically different.
Yeah.
And I think the more people engaged and interact with the AI tools that actually work, and by that I mean like ChatGPT and what other solution you're using, your expectation increases on a daily basis. And now we're seeing robo-taxis and we're seeing humanoid robots walking around. It's like
making French fries at the Tesla cafe.
Yeah, and then you're like, I'm a VIP customer and I get like a welcome email. I'm like, what's going on? So it's like, or I still get first name emails. I still get it today.
Yeah.
So I think the risk of not making a decision or a lack of making those tough decisions is probably much kind of more dangerous than acting today.
And each of those stakeholders, they really need to rethink, I think, how they approach the idea of AI, right? So like, how often do you have a board conversation, what you hear about a board conversation where the board is like, you need to be doing AI. And then CEO is like, shit, I need to be doing AI. Am I allowed to swear? I don't know, I just did, let's go with it. I need to be doing AI. So then of course that gets fed back down, like, hey, what AI are we doing? And then everyone's like, oh my God, we got to do AI. Same time, bottom up, you've got the users. The users are like, we really want this AI feature. It's super cool. Like, please, can we have it? So then, of course, the product teams, like the vendors, the technology companies, like, wait, the users said that they want this AI feature, like scramble, build. In reality, neither of those two things are driving any value.
Yeah.
The conversation about let's do some AI, that's not getting anyone anywhere. The conversation about this one tiny feature that I like because it's cool is not getting the business anywhere from a business value point of view. The reality, like the true value, sits somewhere in the middle. So the users, they need to upgrade themselves to thinking like commercial business owners. which I think is going to be instrumental to their careers going forward anyway, as all of the operational items get replaced by agentic AI. So inevitably, it's better for their own career development to be thinking like business owners anyway. If the use case is going to make 3 times the revenue for the business, great, absolutely. If the use case is going to save a few hours of work, well, those hours of work are going to be automated by AI. So let's not worry about that. Let's focus about the business outcomes. Same with the CEO or the board. These conversations about like, are you using AI? They need to stop, right? That's just a waste of time and energy. It needs to be tangible. What are we trying to achieve? Are we trying to grow or cut costs, right? At the end of the day, business is relatively simple from that point of view. You're either increasing your top line or you're cutting costs. Okay, let's say the priority is cutting costs. Where do we have repeatable workflows that are hyper inefficient that we can really automate first with software and then take to the next level with agentic AI? Or, you know what, we're doubling down on revenue top line, we're willing to invest behind it. Great, let's go heavy customer experience. Let's leverage that data, double down on the campaigns, do a high level of spend across all of the channels, but really deploy AI use cases behind it to optimize those experiences to drive that revenue upside. The board and CEO need to be talking at that level. The users need to be talking at that level. And at the moment, we see quite a lot on the kind of periphery, and not as much in that kind of middle core.
Yeah, I wasn't going to ask you for brands, but now I'm curious, if you like scale of 1 to 10, where are most enterprise level brands sitting today?
In terms
of what you're describing, of making smart decisions about AI, maybe peeling back to the best version of their data. Like where?
I think it's probably like sub 5.
Sub 5.
Yeah. And I think I'm being generous.
Okay.
I think it's sub 5.
We see a thing at the moment that comes up quite a lot, which is there's a battle between the tech side and the commercial side. Tech side, and again, totally rational, understandable battle. Like I get why it happens. Tech side want control and ownership of the tech stack and of data, because ultimately, if it ever goes wrong, they're on the hook. So fine, okay, if I'm a CTO, if I'm a CIO, I want proven technology that is robust, safe, risk-free, and I care slightly less about how happy my marketing team is going to be about their ability to use it. If I'm a marketer or a commercial person or whoever's responsible for growth, top-line sales, trading, I want that data fully actionable in my hands, ready to, within a few clicks, create incredible experiences across every single channel. I want to be using the best possible agentic AI all over that data, and I care slightly less about it being in the right architectural setup or system, because that isn't what I care about. I care about business. So I understand why those two are separate. Quite often at the moment, finding the balance and alignment between those two sides of a retail business is quite difficult.
Yeah.
One will win, one will lose, and there's no need for that to happen. It is possible, we know it because we built it, it's possible to have a solution that achieves both. It ticks all of the compliance, regulation, governance boxes you could possibly think of. At the same time, it puts the data, it democratizes that data, puts it in the hands of the marketers, of the commercial people, ready to use whenever they want. Yeah. Hopefully that becomes more and more best practice, and then that moves the majority of the industry from being sub 5, as Djalal said, closer towards a sort of 7, 8, 9, 10, where they really are leveraging all of the data for true benefit.
Yeah.
And I think there's another battle that's happening that we constantly see is revenue versus customer experience.
How so?
Imagine that you're sending out a newsletter, right? Every single day. And you know that newsletter is bringing you a certain amount of revenue. However, you know it's a pretty shitty customer experience because everyone's getting the same thing. You know that a particular initiative or particular campaign, from a customer experience perspective, is significantly better. I mean, there's like hundreds of different examples. But you know that in the short term, it will have a hit on revenue.
Yeah.
And there's only a few brands or few leaders that are willing to take that risk. And it's
especially
similar
right now, I feel like.
Yeah, especially right now, because we went from focus on revenue to now profitability and margins.
Yeah.
And margins are getting squeezed everywhere.
Yep.
So to make that decision and to risk your job is a pretty tough one, right? So of course there's battles happening between marketing and data and tech, but then at the top level, you're like, okay, yes, customer experience is good, but it's this kind of intangible thing that I don't know how much to invest into or what risks to take. And it's very similar to what we've just mentioned, is that to set yourself up for success for the next 5 years, you need to take a risk or place a bet that's highly intangible today, but could potentially make sure that you are one of the leaders. So same with the customer experience. I think we went through a period where customer experience became less important because it was mostly about price point, product availability. How can I get it right now in the next few hours? But a lot of brands that took a different approach are starting to come back, and they're just surging and booming. And when you look at it, it's kind of intangible, but you look at it like, shit, that's a great brand. And they're not doing anything radically different. They just really focus on the customer experience and pays off. Of course, there isn't like a blueprint or a recipe for that level of success, but I think that's what makes it beautiful, because a brand experience is so unique and cannot be replicated, whilst everything else can.
That's what I was going to ask you. Where do brands learn that? So, here you as a business partner solution have the education and the insight to help brands. So where else do they learn how to make these hard decisions? Because they need people around them that can help them feel safe. Like, this is a smart decision. I need to convince the leadership team and the board of this. Where do people go to learn? Because there's so much. Where do you start? I had this vision already of walking in NRF 2026 and just feel like it's going to be out of control of so many new vendors and so much AI. So where do you start? Like, what do you do today?
That's a good question. Any ideas?
I mean, overwhelming is definitely the right word for it. You walk into a conference like NRF and it's like, whoa, okay. First of all, don't know where to look. Secondly, AI is absolutely everywhere. Third, it claims to solve all of our problems, like literally and each one. So each of the 26,000 vendors, which will all be marketing the fact they will solve all the problems. And you know what? Maybe they can solve a lot of problems. So who knows? So how do you dig through it? We chose to build our own conference, Lifecycle. We run it in London, New York. Run it now for 11 years. Because we wanted to create a home for retail marketers specifically. So typically 400 retail marketers come and they gather. And the entire day is focused on them exchanging ideas. So the talks are all retail practitioners, retail brands. The roundtables are all retail marketing practitioners talking to each other. And we built it because we heard from the industry that there wasn't a space for that kind of conversation. There wasn't a space where you could sit down and actually say, do you know what? We have tried X, Y, Z and none of them worked. Or actually, you know what? We tried this thing and it was super cool and it drove the following value. And we see people walking out with just notebooks full of notes, just minds just buzzing with opportunities, with ideas. Now, obviously, as a vendor, we at Ometria, we are responsible. It is our job to help support our customers on their journey. It used to be the journey through data, and then the journey through software and technology and mathematics and machine learning, and now it is the new definition of AI. I mean, AI really applies to everything, right? Machine learning is also AI, but this new world of agentic AI powered, majority by LLMs. It is our responsibility to take people on that journey, and certainly if they are new to that kind of approach, they're still trying to fix their data foundation. And I'd say 99% of brands, probably not an exaggeration, 99% of brands are still trying to fix their data foundation. They haven't fixed it. Then we are the experts that will share that expertise with them. And frankly, whichever vendor any retail brand chooses to work with, the expectation of that vendor should be that they are partners and that they are experts. There is no more world where you're buying a piece of software. Hey, I saw this advert in the airport on my way off the plane, and then I went and I spent $1 million with them because their brand looks great and apparently they're well known and their quarterly results sounded good on the earnings call, right? Like, that is just not a way of making a software decision today. That software vendor needs to know your business inside out. You need to know who exactly you're working with at that vendor, who is the executive sponsor, who is your team, and do they care? Are they going to look after you? Are they going to push you forward? Like, all of that needs to be absolutely instrumental, and not just with Ometria, but with whatever software vendor or technology vendor any retailer brings on board. But if you do that, if you get the right one, then, to answer your question, not only are you learning this from conferences and peers and kind of networking events, you're also learning this from those vendors, those close partners
Yeah.
who are at the cutting edge. I mean, it's our job to be at the cutting edge of AI. We've been at the cutting edge of data and AI for 12 years. We have to be. That's how our business exists and thrives. Why we now do this for 200 retail brands.
Yeah.
You know, wouldn't be able to if we weren't.
And that's the beauty of this conversation, or I think where so many solution providers sit, is the bar has been raised about what the customer expects from you.
Absolutely.
Because I agree, they need education, they need hand holding on decision making. Every decision is more important today. Every check that they sign is scrutinized. And so I think that this idea of who are my partners, who can help me, big decisions need to be made, but they're decisions for the future. And the future feels more unpredictable right now. You said, like, it's really hard to predict 5 years, which seems so odd, but based on the last 5, that's entirely true. So, like, how do you, I guess, you know, Djalal, thinking more about that, what's your relationship been with your partners and all of your customers to help them through this time?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much what Ivan said. I think it's vital to partner with the brand that you're working with and with all of our customers. And I think the perspective and the attitude, at the very least from our end, is very welcome. And ultimately, I believe it's the only way to improve our product as well.
Yeah.
Because you get to witness genuine problems that can be solved through AI or technology. And unless you're having those conversations, and unless you're working in a very kind of deep partnership with the brand, you're never going to see them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, for me, it's not even like a nice to have. It's core to both the brand, but also to the technology and the vendor to progress and improve, not like incrementally, but like to 2x, 3x, 5x over the next few years. Because that's the only way that you're going to create that feedback loop that enables the brand to go fast and create better experiences, but for us to apply AI to genuine problems. And for me, I think for both of us as kind of technologists, the biggest pet peeve for me is just to build functionality for the sake of it. And that's what kind of annoys me when wherever we go to the conferences or read any of the kind of blogs, there's just so much AI stuff out there.
Yeah.
Like, what's the value? Like, what are you going to do with this?
Yeah.
It looks cool. Like, you can query some stuff, but like,
Yep.
what is the actual value? So for me, it's so critical that you're actually applying technology in the simplest possible way to solve the hardest problem in the quickest possible way.
I remember
Interesting.
one of our enterprise customers, a couple of billion turnover, CEO once said to us, I have space in my life, in my professional working life, for relationships with 2 vendors. That's it. And so you need to, one, be solving a business problem that really makes a difference to me at my strategic level, like at CEO level. And you need to prove to me that you are that value add as a vendor in order to get one of those 2 slots, basically. And so we felt very honored that we had been included. And, you know, obviously kind of CDP is definitely important enough.
Sure.
But that was a validation that we had been able to provide value over and above just software, that we were able to truly be a partner and to kind of push them forward. But I always think back to him saying that now. And we share it internally with our team as well. Like, that is the bar that we have to meet. It has to be both of those things. There's no point in building a product that's nice to have. You have to operate in a category that's a must have. Luckily we do. We made the right decision 12 years ago. And then that whole team has to be truly committed to proactively, with full ownership, ensuring successful strategic results for that customer, for that retail brand.
It's so fascinating to think about that, of sitting in that first or second slot with brands. So what advice would you give CMOs today that are listening about what to do next? They're wrapping up 2025, thinking about NRF or anything else, big decisions for 2026. What advice would you give them?
First of all, don't worry about AI. If you're a CMO, you've hopefully already learned the very important art of delegation. You've got a big team, you've got a lot going on. There's no way that you are doing absolutely everything. As a CMO, you're probably in the detail of everything because you have the eye and you care about the output, you care about how it looks. So therefore, you have learned how to delegate to your team, but also keep a watchful eye and make sure you have visibility. exactly what AI will do for you. Might not be humans doing the work, and I'm not suggesting we're replacing humans. The humans will be doing a lot of work, different work. It might be AI now doing some of that work, but you will still need to delegate to them and you need to keep an eye on what's going on. CMOs are ready for that. So step one is, don't worry. Step two is, I think we've talked about it quite a lot today, but fix your data.
Yeah.
That's 2025, maybe 2026, that's all you got. Any later than that, and you're going to fall behind on the whole agentic AI revolution.
Wow. Anything you'd add, Djalal?
Fix your data. Fix your data.
Seems to be a theme.
Yeah, and I think spend some time and figure out what differentiates your brand.
Yeah.
And what you want your brand to look like in 5 years. Because I think we're going through a very scary, but at the same time exciting time. And I think there's so much opportunity out there.
Right.
And the brands that make the right decisions today and truly understand what their brand should be in 5 years, I think we'll see a lot that will come out of it. So yeah,
Amazing.
Take time to truly understand what differentiates your brand.
So now that AI is here, what's the day-to-day life of a marketer look like right now?
I still believe in software. It might feel a little bit old school, but I still like the idea of interacting with a technology and getting visual cues. And that might be because I'm a visual learner. Quite often I like to whiteboard and stuff. But so for me, software today is you are logging in, you are working with agentic AI, you're interacting with an agentic AI either via a conversational interface, maybe via audio, speaking into a microphone, it talks back to you. But as you do that, on screen, you still have visualizations, whether that's like a report or a graph with some insight or a view of a campaign, which you can also click and drag around.
Okay.
So I strongly believe that paradigm of software will be enriched by agentic AI, but won't just totally disappear.
Okay. Djalal.
So I agree with the visual component to it. I also like to see things, and I don't think I'm at a point where I would trust something simply by hearing it or seeing it visualized in a slightly different way. I think for me, the biggest change that we'll see is that to avoid the level of best of breed technologies that kind of went out of control and spiraled out of control, I think what's going to happen is that there will be certain technologies that exist today that people will get comfortable with. Let's say ChatGPT. And ChatGPT already has multiple interfaces within it. First, it was just a chat window. Now you have the canvas. At some point, it's going to be interactive graphs and videos and images. So rather than logging into your vendor, Ometria, you would actually have a specific Ometria or brand-related window within ChatGPT.
Okay.
So rather than logging into 3-4 different systems, you're logging into one that's all unified. And then in terms of your interaction and your workflow, you can start mixing and combining things all in one place. And I think that would be pretty transformational. That on the one hand, you're asking what your customer behavior was like in Black Friday of last year, and then you're trying to, optimize your in-store experience by leveraging another data point and combining the two. So I do think that software will still exist. How you want to interact, whether it's voice, whether it's telepathic or however it will be in the future, I think the biggest change will be going through one interface versus multiple.
Yeah. And it sounds like that could create efficiencies on a team too.
Yeah.
The more that software engages, the more one person could do more of that work, which is interesting and probably very real, something to consider.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of the different, the ChatGPT, the Gemini, the Grok of the world, the Claude, their moat is they are learning from your behavior. So for example, if you've spent so much time speaking to ChatGPT, even if another algorithm is better, you might not want to move because they know so much about you.
Yeah.
So imagine multiplying that across your every single business workflow.
Right.
That it will learn so much about your personal life, your work life, and then your queries, you don't have to do the full thing anymore. You just basically, it can start doing things for you. So that's why I think unifying it, and we've talked about data foundation for too long, but this is kind of taking it to another level from from an interface and software perspective.
I do see that because right now you kind of have to train even your most advanced system. Let's say you have Ometria as your full CDXP, it's got all of your data unified. But if you want to be using LLM-based copy generation, for example, you have to also make sure you've trained it on your brand identity and on how you want to frame that copy. Now, do you really want to do that another 5 times to the other platforms you may or may not be using? No. So in that scenario, it absolutely makes sense for you to have one interface that already knows everything about your brand. And even if you have a new human employee who comes, joins, team member, then they log in, and whatever they're doing is already fully enriched by those values and the brand identity in there across all the possible technology solutions that then sit kind of behind that and do it. So I definitely get that. It's a big shift, especially when we're kind of used to having software that we log into and we press some buttons and it does something, and then we log out, we log into a different piece of software.
Right.
But I could totally see why that shift makes sense as the future.
Yeah. And I think it's ultimately going to be incremental, right? I think there'll be certain use cases which will be easier done through this interface.
Yeah.
Maybe creating a fully cross-channel journey, let's say the ChatGPT interface is not ready for, but let's say rather than having BI tool, all of your reports, all of the insights, everything that you're getting could be done by one interface. So I think there'll be different types of use cases that you'll incrementally get used to, and eventually the shift will happen.
Right. And where can people learn more about Ometria?
We would love to connect and spend time with you in so many different places. Obviously, come check out the website, ometria.com. Please come to Lifecycle, either in London or New York. Follow us on all social media, but we very regularly post on our blog and on our LinkedIn. We release really specific retail content on a regular basis, whether it's our kind of AI trends or the regular retail report that we do. So come check out any of that. And if you ever want to speak, please drop us a line. For us, the human touch is absolutely vital. We are obviously an AI company, but we believe that humanity is vital for what we do, and especially for what retail does. And so what we really want to do is come and see you in your office, wherever you happen to be. We've got offices all over the world. Spend some time to get to know you and understand you.
Amazing. Thank you both.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
That's a wrap on this episode of Retail Intelligence in Action. We hope it gave you a more grounded, behind-the-scenes perspective on what it really takes to lead retail transformation through AI. Big thanks to Djalal Lougouev and Ivan Mazour and the entire team at Ometria for not just imagining a better future, but actively building it. And of course, none of this would be possible without the vision and creative brilliance of Paula Makaji and the OFFBounds team, who brought this series to life with heart, precision, and style. I'm Ron Thurston. Follow and subscribe to catch every conversation on what it really takes to lead in this new era of AI-powered retail. We'll see you soon.